The morning fog hung thick over Pacifica, California that March day in 1990. Clinging to the coastal cliffs like a shroud, it muffled the world, swallowing the cry of gulls and the distant crash of surf. Sergeant Jack Monroe, his home a sanctuary of quiet routine, had just poured his second cup of coffee when the radio on his kitchen counter crackled to life, a serrated edge against the silence. Unit 23, this is dispatch. We have a 1054 at Devil's Slide. Fisherman reports a possible police vehicle at the base of the cliff, requesting immediate response. Jack's hand froze mid-reach for his toast. Devil's Slide. The name alone was a curse on the lips of every cop who worked the coast. A treacherous, crumbling stretch of Highway 1 where the continent simply gave up, surrendering to the relentless assault of the Pacific. He'd driven that route countless times in his 20 years on the force, each journey a small prayer against rockfalls and the hypnotic pull of the abyss. But this call felt different. It coiled in his gut, a cold, premonitory dread. Dispatch, this is Unit 23, Monroe responding. ETA 10 minutes. He grabbed his jacket, the coffee forgotten on the counter. As he pulled out of his driveway, his personal radio chirped. Jack, it's Marie. Detective Maria Estrada's voice was tight with an urgency that mirrored his own. I'm already en route. Helicopter's been dispatched. Meet me at the northern observation point. Copy that. What are we looking at? Fisherman says it's definitely one of ours. Old model, heavily damaged. She paused, and the silence over the radio was heavy with unspoken history. Dispatch ran a preliminary check on missing patrol vehicles from the area. There's only one unaccounted for in the past 20 years. Jack's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. He didn't need her to say the name. Laura, his wife, missing for 13 years. Her patrol car vanished without a trace on a routine night shift in 1977. The drive to Devil's Slide took exactly 9 minutes and 37 seconds. Jack knew because he counted every one of them, each tick of the clock a hammer blow against the wall he'd built around his heart. Memories flooded the vacuum. Laura in her crisp blue uniform, her badge gleaming as she'd kissed him goodbye that last evening. The forced smile when she'd promised to be careful. The vast, cold emptiness of the bed that had waited for her return. The observation point was a chaotic bloom of color against the gray fog. Patrol cars, their red and blue lights painting the mist in surreal, swirling strokes, crowded the turnout. Yellow tape cordoned off the cliff edge, where a cluster of officers peered down at the rocky shore below. Jack spotted Marie immediately, her dark hair pulled back in its characteristic bun, her detective's shield prominent on her belt. Jack. She turned as he approached, her sharp, intelligent eyes full of a sympathy he couldn't yet accept. You should prepare yourself. The coroner's been called. He gave a curt nod and pushed through to the tape. Below, barely visible through the thinning haze, lay the twisted, skeletal remains of a patrol car. Even from this height, he could see the rust that had eaten through the metal like a cancer. The way the roof had caved in from years of unimaginable pressure and pounding waves. The distinctive whoop-whoop of helicopter rotors announced the arrival of the rescue team. Jack watched as the Coast Guard chopper descended, its crew preparing the heavy cables that would lift the wreck from its watery tomb. The fisherman who'd made the discovery stood nearby, a weathered man in his 60s wearing faded overalls and rubber boots, his face etched with the shock of his find. You found it? Jack's voice was rough. The man nodded, his gaze still fixed on the wreck below. Been fishing these waters for 30 years. That car wasn't there last week, I can tell you that. The storm 2 days ago must have dislodged it from wherever it was hiding. When the sun hit that chrome bumper this morning, he shook his head. I knew right away it wasn't right. You did good calling it in, Marie said, joining them. Can you tell us exactly what you saw? As the fisherman recounted his discovery, Jack's attention was locked on the recovery operation. The crew rappelled down the cliff face with practiced, almost balletic efficiency, attaching heavy cables to the vehicle's mangled frame. The process was painstaking, a delicate surgery on a corpse of steel. One wrong move could send vital evidence tumbling into the Pacific, lost forever. "Lifting now!" a voice crackled over the radio. The gathered officers fell silent. The cables went taut, groaning under the immense weight. Slowly, impossibly, the rusted hulk began to rise. Water poured from its broken windows like tears, and a shower of rust and debris rained down on the rocks below. Jack found himself holding his breath as the car cleared the cliff edge and was guided to a flat, cleared area. Up close, the devastation was absolute. The patrol car, a 1975 Plymouth Fury, the same model Laura had driven, was barely recognizable. The ocean had not been kind. Rust had consumed entire sections of the body, and barnacles crusted the undercarriage like grotesque armor. The forensics team, clad in white Tyvek suits, moved in immediately, their cameras flashing as they documented every angle before beginning their meticulous examination. Jack forced himself to stand back, to let them work, even as every instinct screamed at him to tear the doors open and search for answers himself. "License plate still partially readable," one of the techs called out. "Running it now." Marie's hand found Jack's shoulder, a small grounding pressure. "You don't have to be here for this." "Yes," he said, his voice a low rasp. "I do." The tech with the laptop looked up, his face grave. "VIN matches. This is Officer Laura Monroe's patrol vehicle." The words hit Jack like a physical blow, even though he'd known, had felt it in his bones from the moment he'd heard the call. 13 years of not knowing. 13 years of the corrosive uncertainty, the whispered rumors that she'd simply left him, left the job, left everything behind. Now here was the proof. Something terrible had happened that night. "Opening the driver's door," the lead forensic tech announced. He pulled, and the door came away entirely, its hinges rusted through. The interior was a cave of shadows and decay. The seats were rotted down to their springs, the dashboard a mangled mass of corrosion. "No remains visible," the tech reported. Jack released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Whether it was relief or disappointment, he couldn't say. The search continued methodically. Personal effects emerged like artifacts from a tomb. A flashlight, its batteries long since leaked and corroded. A citation book, its pages fused into a solid, unreadable mass. And then, from beneath the driver's seat, a small, glinting object. "Brass shell casing," the tech said, holding it up in a pair of tweezers. ".40 caliber. Same as department issue from the era Blood," another tech called from the rear of the vehicle, his voice sharp. "Degraded, but definitely blood. Under the back seat." He popped the trunk, its rusted mechanism screaming in protest, and played his flashlight over the interior. "Significant traces in the trunk," a new voice cut through the scene, brusque and authoritative. "What the hell is going on here?" Richard Hensley, the department supervisor, strode through the crime scene tape as if he owned it, which, Jack reflected grimly, he essentially did. Hensley had been Laura's supervisor too, back in '77. Now in his late 50s, he'd grown thick around the middle, but still carried himself with the unassailable authority of a man used to being obeyed. "Richard," Marie said, her tone professional. "We've confirmed it. It's Laura Monroe's vehicle." Hensley's face went through a rapid series of expressions: shock, concern, then a carefully curated mask of official sympathy. "Christ, after all this time." He looked at Jack. "You shouldn't be here." "I'm fine." "Blood and brass," the forensic lead summarized. "No dash cam recovered, probably destroyed by the salt water. But this is definitely a crime scene." Hensley rubbed his jaw, his eyes narrowing. Now let's not jump to conclusions. That blood could be anyone's. For all we know, Laura might have... He paused, choosing his words with deliberate care. She might have been involved in something that went wrong. Shot someone, panicked, ditched the car. That's not Laura, Jack said, his voice flat and cold as the ocean wind. She wouldn't. 13 years is a long time, Jack. People aren't always who we think they are. Hensley's tone was patronizingly sympathetic. We investigate this properly, no assumptions. Marie stepped in before Jack could respond. We'll need DNA testing on the blood samples. It's new technology, expensive, but do it, Hensley ordered. This is a potential homicide of one of our own. We spare no expense. He looked around the scene, his gaze lingering on the horizon. The media will be all over this. We need a statement. As if summoned by his words, the first news van appeared, a vulture circling a fresh kill. Within minutes, reporters were setting up just beyond the police tape, their long-lensed cameras focused on the rusted patrol car. Before he'd fully processed what was happening, Jack found himself in front of them, microphones thrust at him like weapons. Sergeant Monroe, how does it feel to finally have answers about your wife's disappearance? Is it true Officer Monroe was under investigation before she vanished? Do you believe she was murdered? Jack straightened his shoulders, his training kicking in. He looked directly into the nearest camera, his voice clear and steady. Officer Laura Monroe was a dedicated member of this department. She'd just been promoted to patrol sergeant when she disappeared in 1977. She was hardworking, honest, and committed to serving this community. We will investigate this discovery thoroughly and professionally. And we will find out what happened to her. Nature has finally surrendered this evidence to us, and we won't waste the opportunity. More questions flew at him, but Marie gently guided him away from the cameras. Behind them, the forensics team continued their methodical work, each piece of evidence carefully catalogued and preserved. You did good, Marie said as they reached their vehicles. Go home, Jack. Take some time. Hensley appeared at Jack's elbow. She's right. You're too close to this. Take a few days. Let us handle the investigation. I can work this case. No, you can't. Hensley's tone brooked no argument. You're emotionally involved. Your judgment's compromised. That's not an insult, it's a fact. Marie nodded reluctantly. I'll handle it personally. Work with the team. I'll keep you updated every step of the way, Jack. You can trust me. Jack looked from Marie's earnest face to Hensley's unreadable one, then back at the rusted shell of Laura's patrol car. After 13 years, answers were finally within reach, but they were right. He was too close, too raw. I have copies of the original case files at home, he said finally. I'll review them, see if there's anything we missed. That's fine, Hensley said, visibly relieved. Just don't go playing detective on your own. As Jack climbed into his patrol car, his mind was already racing through the dusty files waiting in his office, searching for the clue they'd all missed. The thread that once pulled would unravel 13 years of silence. Jack's house sat quiet in the midday sun. He pushed through the front door and headed straight for his home office. The box on the top shelf of his closet, a repository of suspended grief. Laura Monroe, 1977, was written in black marker across the side. He pulled it down and sat on the floor, spreading the contents around him. Laura's photograph stared up at him from her personnel file, her blonde hair feathered in the style of the late 70s, her blue eyes bright with pride. The new sergeant's stripes were fresh on her uniform. She'd been so proud of that promotion, the youngest sergeant in the department's history. He ran his finger down the logbook copies from November 18th, 1977. Laura's handwriting, neat and precise, 2,000 hours beginning patrol Sector 7. Then 15 minutes later, 2015 hours. Routine traffic stop, Highway 1, mile marker 42. Warning issued, nothing after that. No distress call, no report of suspicious activity, no request for backup, just silence. He sifted through the witness statements, pathetically few. Her partner that night, Officer Patricia Hales, had last seen Laura at 8 p.m. 2 civilians had seen a patrol car but couldn't confirm it was hers. Minimal. Frustratingly minimal. He leaned back against the wall. Laura would not have just driven her car off Devil's Slide. Someone else had to be involved. His eyes fell on the duty roster. Patricia Hales had been her partner, but there, at the bottom of the logbook page, was another name. Deputy Carl Bowen, night shift supervisor. He'd signed off on the entries. Jack grabbed his phone and dialed Marie. "Jack, I'm almost back at the station. Richard's already here. I need you to pull the current contact for a Carl Bowen. He signed the logbook the night Laura disappeared." "Bowen? He transferred to San Mateo County about 8 years ago." "What about him?" "I want to talk to him." Instead of driving to the station, Jack found himself turning onto Highway 1, heading south. 20 minutes later, he pulled over at mile marker 42, the site of her last stop. The area hadn't changed. To the west, the Pacific. To the east, the old industrial docks at Moss Landing, rusted and weather-beaten. Standard procedure called for pairs after dark, especially out here. Why was she alone? A black and white cruiser slowed as it approached. The window rolled down. "Jack Monroe? That you?" Carl Bowen had aged well, his hair gray but his face still lean. He wore the San Mateo County Sheriff's uniform with the easy confidence of a veteran. "Carl, this is a coincidence." "Yeah, heard about this morning. They really found Laura's car." Carl's expression was sympathetic but guarded. "Terrible thing. After all this time." He glanced at his watch. "Listen, I'd love to catch up, but I'm running late for my shift. Actually, I wanted to ask about the logbook from that night. You signed off on it." A flicker of something, annoyance, caution, crossed Carl's eyes. "That was 13 years ago, Jack. But yeah, I remember signing it. Everything was in order." He shifted the car into gear. "Tell you what, let's grab coffee sometime. Talk about old times. I'm patrolling the San Pedro Valley area today near the park. Give me a call." Carl waved and pulled away. Back in his car, Jack turned on the radio. A replay of his interview was playing. "Hard-working, honest, and committed." His own words echoed, and a cold thought struck him. A newly promoted, ambitious young woman in a department dominated by old-school cops. He'd seen the resentment, the brutal politics. He tried to push it away. These were his brothers in blue. But the questions persisted. The Pacifica station lot was half empty. As Jack reached for his door handle, he saw Richard Hensley pacing by the side of the building, cell phone pressed to his ear. His voice, sharp with agitation, carried across the asphalt. "Car came up. Your job. Move it. Now." Jack climbed out quietly. Hensley spun around, his eyes widening in surprise, which quickly morphed into fear. He mumbled into the phone and ended the call. "Jack," Hensley forced a smile, "what are you doing here? Thought I told you to take some time." "Couldn't stay away. Was that about Laura's case?" "What?" "Oh, the call." Hensley fumbled his phone into his pocket. Yeah, the evidence yard. They want the car moved to a specialized facility. EPA regulations, you know. Had to light a fire under the transport company." It sounded plausible, but Hensley's sweat-sheened forehead told a different story. Inside, Marie was huddled with the forensics team. "The DNA samples are too degraded," one of the techs was saying. 13 years underwater, contaminated with salt, rust, marine bacteria. "We're looking at weeks, maybe months, to get anything usable." Jack's hope deflated. "The bullet casing is more definitive," the other tech said. 40 caliber. Matches department issued ammunition from 1977 Laura's gun. Laura's blood. Or someone else's. The uncertainty was maddening. He saw Hensley disappearing toward his office. I need to talk to Richard about Carl Bowen, Jack told Marie. I ran into him out at Laura's old patrol route. Marie's eyebrows rose. That's quite a coincidence. Jack found Hensley in his office, hastily tossing back pills with a glass of water. Blood pressure medication, Hensley explained unprompted. This case... I need to ask you about Carl Bowen, Jack said. He was the night supervisor when Laura disappeared. Hensley's expression tightened. So? Someone had to sign the log. If Laura was attacked, she would have called it in. She was too good a cop not to. But there's nothing after 8:15. That's exactly why we always thought she'd just left. Hensley's voice turned sharp. You're wasting time, Jack. Carl Bowen is a good cop. You want to start suspecting your brothers in blue based on a signature on a 13-year-old logbook? Hensley stood abruptly, then grabbed his desk as he swayed. He mumbled something about low blood sugar and stress and hurried out, nearly walking into the glass entrance to the bullpen. Something was deeply wrong. My office, now, Marie said, appearing at his elbow. Inside, she closed the door and laid a document on her desk. I was going through the archives, found this misfiled in a residential burglary case from 3 months after Laura vanished. It was a witness statement. No signature, no official stamp. Just typed text describing a female officer pulling over a white van on Devil's Slide Road the night Laura disappeared. The witness's name was Belinda Carlson. Marie produced another folder. Here's the official file, a second statement from Belinda Carlson. Signed, stamped. In this one, she claims she saw nothing unusual. She pointed to an address. She's still local, Fairmont neighborhood. Let's go, Jack said. As Marie's Crown Victoria turned onto Belinda Street, Jack spotted it. Richard Hensley's department-issued sedan sat in front of a yellow house with peeling paint. Hensley himself stood on the porch, jabbing his finger at a woman whose arms were crossed defensively. He pressed a thick envelope into her hands before striding back to his car. They waited until he was gone, then knocked. The woman who answered, Belinda Carlson, looked exhausted and afraid. What else do you people want? She snapped, then saw their unfamiliar faces. We saw you talking with our supervisor, Richard Hensley, Marie said gently. We're investigating the same case. Jack held up both witness statements. We need you to explain these. Belinda's face went pale. Her shoulders sagged in defeat. Fine. Come in. Her voice was a whisper as she recounted the night of November 18, 1977. She'd been a park ranger at San Pedro Valley Park. Driving to work, she saw a female officer, Laura, pulling over an old white van with a crescent-shaped dent in the rear panel. Later that night, while meeting her husband in an isolated part of the park, they heard a scream. Around midnight, she saw the same white van driving out of the park. I tried to report it, Belinda said, her voice cracking. I went to the station, gave my statement. But your supervisor, Hensley, he took over. He said my story was confusing, that I should just say I saw nothing. She gestured to the envelope on the table. He paid me. A week later, someone made an anonymous complaint about me and my husband. I was fired. Hensley made sure I couldn't get another ranger job. He's been paying me for my continued discretion ever since. We need you to make an official statement, Marie urged. Belinda shook her head violently. Number not until you have more than my word against a respected supervisor. Find more evidence. Build a case he can't wiggle out of. Then I'll testify. Back in the car, Jack slumped in his seat. She's right. But now we know what to look for, Marie said. A white van, a cover-up. Jack sat bolt upright. Carl Bowen. He said he was patrolling the San Pedro Valley area today. Same park where Belinda worked. It can't be a coincidence. Marie's eyes gleamed. Then let's go see what Officer Bowen is really up to. They found them instantly. Hensley's sedan and Bowen's patrol car were parked near the ranger station at San Pedro Valley Park. From the cover of the trees, Jack and Marie watched the two men emerge from a trailhead. Bowen carried a shovel. Hensley clutched a large, heavy black plastic bag. Told you this was unnecessary, Bowen grumbled as they loaded the bag and shovel into the trunk of his patrol car. Unnecessary? Hensley's voice was tight with panic. Did you hear Monroe on the news? They found the car, Carl, the goddamn car. There's blood, bullet casings, and this new DNA testing they've got now. The body's been in the ground for 13 years, Richard. It's just bones. No one's going to find it at Middle Peak. If they confirm that blood is Laura's, they'll want the body. That Carlson woman, the Rangers we paid off, one of them talks and we're finished. Take it somewhere secure, somewhere even I don't know about. What about the place near those people? Bowen said. You know, our business partners, if anyone gets close, suspicion falls on them. For the first time, Hensley almost smiled. Finally, you're thinking. Just get it done. They watched Hensley drive back toward town while Bowen headed north along the coast. Marie followed at a discreet distance. That has to be Laura in that bag, Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. 30 minutes later, Bowen turned into the sprawling Sharp Park water treatment plant, using a service road at the back. He parked near a swath of overgrown grassland, pulled the black bag from his trunk, grabbed his shovel and disappeared into the tall grass. From behind the chain-link fence, they watched him dig. He worked quickly, efficiently. He upended the bag into the shallow grave. The contents spilled out. Degraded human remains, tattered fabric, a dark mass of what might have been hair. Then Bowen did something that made Jack's blood run cold. He reached into the grave, plucked out a small bone and slipped it into his pocket. A trophy. He filled the hole, covered his tracks, and drove not out of the facility but deeper into it, stopping at an abandoned generator shed. 5 minutes later, he emerged carrying a rectangular package wrapped in brown paper. A brick of narcotics. Just then, two men emerged from the shed, pushing two terrified-looking teenage girls toward Bowen's patrol car. That's it, Jack said. Back up, now! Marie was already on the radio, her voice low and urgent, requesting a tactical team, reporting officer-involved human trafficking and narcotics. As sirens screamed in the distance, a nondescript white van, old, no rear windows, a crescent-shaped dent in the back, pulled up to the shed. The raid was swift and overwhelming. The van driver surrendered immediately. Bowen tried to bluff. What's going on here? I was just bringing these girls in, he protested, gesturing at the drugs on his front seat. Jack leaned in close, his voice a low growl. You're quite the storyteller, Carl. Too bad we watched you bury human remains 30 minutes ago. Probably Laura's. Then waltz in here for your drug pickup and your monthly bonus of trafficked girls. Carl's face went white. The generator shed was a front for a massive meth lab and a human trafficking den. As victims were led to safety and suspects were cuffed, Jack and Marie went back to the freshly dug grave and with reverence recovered what was left of Laura. Back at the station, Hensley, cuffed and defeated in an interrogation room, finally broke. Laura pulled over a van that night, he confessed, his voice hollow. A meth shipment. The driver panicked, shot her. She was wounded but not dead. Carl wanted to call an ambulance, but she'd seen them. She could identify them. His voice cracked. So I finished what the runner started. I used her own weapon. The corruption, he admitted, ran deep. A dozen names poured out, cops on the take, looking the other way, participating in the drug and trafficking ring he and his cartel partners had built. Jack stumbled into the corridor, the weight of 13 years of lies crashing down on him. He saw Belinda Carlson sitting on a bench. "I told them everything," she said, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry." "You came forward when it mattered," Jack said, his voice gentle. "Laura can finally rest because you found your courage." A forensic tech interrupted. "Sergeant Monroe, we need you to identify something." In the evidence room, among the remains was a small plastic bag. Inside was a tarnished pendant on a delicate chain. A platinum heart. Jack took it, his hands trembling. He turned it over. The engraving was faint, but he could still read it. Jack and Laura forever. The tears came then hot and unrestrained, a 13-year flood of grief and rage and loss. This was Laura. She hadn't left him. She had been stolen from him. He looked at another tagged item on the table. "We found that in Carl Bowen's pocket," the tech said. "A finger bone. He took it as a trophy." Later, standing with Marie amidst the controlled chaos of the station, Jack looked at the faces of the arrested officers, the men he had called brothers. "This is going to tear the department apart," Marie said. "Good," Jack replied, his voice firm. "It needs to be torn apart, rebuilt, clean." Laura was gone, but the women from the facility were safe. Justice, long buried, had finally surfaced. The truth, like Laura's patrol car, had its own inexorable buoyancy. The badge had been tarnished, used to protect evil. But for Laura, for the women they'd saved, for the community that trusted them, they would make it mean something again.